Brian Davids. It is with a heavy heart that I have to record this podcast this weekend. Later on in the show, we're going to say goodbye to arguably the best schmo there is. But in my personal life, I just had the worst week ever. So this whole Kristian thing could not have happened at a worse time. I had a horrible week at work, and to cap it all off, yesterday my car broke down on the side of the road, and it's probably going to be another week before I get it back. Brian Davids, were you feeling unlucky this week too?
My week was not as bad as yours, but they say that bad things happen in threes. When it rains, it pours, so to speak. So it sounds like you've had 3 bad things happen to you this week.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. 3 bad things. Work, car, Kristian Harloff. We will get to that in a minute. Yeah, man.
Cue the Sarah McLachlan?
Yeah. Play the Sarah McLachlan. Let's play the ad for the abused animals and set the mood for our audience, because this is going to be a downer this week. No, I don't want it to be a downer. I'm going to try as hard as I can not to let it be a downer, but I will say that I was so disconnected from Collider this week that I'm going to need your help running through that side of the show. But yeah,
it wouldn't be the first time.
Thank you so much. What's funny is that the file name for our theme song, I think it's actually called Happy Song. So maybe if we listen to this, we'll feel a little bit more positive. So let's bring ourselves in. Here we go. Welcome to the Schmoeville After Show. I'm your host, Ryan Snelling.
And I'm Brian Davids, and I'm beyond disappointed that we won't get to hear Kristian razz JTE for calling Dev Patel Dave Patel.
When did that happen?
He said it a couple times, mainly his review for Lion. He said it, I think, on the Schmoes Know Show, or maybe it was a Schmoedown. He said it on a couple places. So
Dave Patel.
Dave Patel.
My God, that is awful. My word. Do you watch all of JTE's movie reviews?
I just started probably a couple weeks ago, so I don't know. He's interesting to watch. I mean, I like JTE, so.
Yeah, I do too. Friend of the show, JTE. I don't get to watch a lot of his reviews, though. He's a lucky bastard. Somehow, I guess it's because you can sign up to go to screenings of movies, but I can, of course, because I'm, all alone over here in Kentucky, but he gets to see a lot of those movies early, just like the big time critics, so I'm a little bit jealous, but lately I haven't been able to keep up with his reviews because of that. So
one of my favorite flubs that he did on The Spectacular was calling his team, or his stable, the Screen Junkies brethren instead of brethren. That was a good one as well.
Maybe I should start watching these more.
Well, this was on The Spectacular, but it was a flub that I've been meaning to bring up for a while. That
Gotcha.
was, I'm surprised to get more play.
Gotcha. Like I said, man, I don't have a lot of notes for Collider. I was so my mind was elsewhere all week, so I'm gonna need your help running through this. And but before we do that, let's get into some housekeeping real quick. I just have a quick one. Last week, I said something about how I felt like the Schmoes Know YouTube channel came to a screeching halt, and
oh my god, I had the same housekeeping note.
No way.
They had 6,000 new subscribers in December. That was my note.
Yeah. What I wanted to say, I just wanted to go back on my rhetoric on the subject because I felt like I was a little too harsh. I just wanted to, absolutely acknowledge the fact that they average about 200 subscribers a day. What I actually meant to say was that it just wasn't the top priority compared to Collider video. And in a way, we got proof of that because we'll talk about the Kristian stuff later on, but I don't know. That's all I wanted to say. I didn't mean to sound so harsh about it last week. So did I pretty much clear that up for you, or did you have something else you wanted to add?
It was more on that point. I mean, to be fair, prior to December, where they had 6,000 new subscribers, likely because of Spectacular, perhaps because of Rogue One, Prior to that, though, they had probably 1,000 to 2,000 new subscribers in the 3 months prior to December, October, November, September. So it was a little stagnant there, but yeah, I wanted to give them proper credit on that front. But look, people need to understand, though, Collider pays the bills. Collider allows them to do Schmoes. If it wasn't for their contracts with Collider, they would not be able to use Collider's infrastructure to produce Schmoes. So we can't be too hard on them when Collider is what gives Schmoes a current home base.
Yeah. I since we had the same one, let me just I'll throw in another one, and you can talk shit too, because I know you'll probably have something to say. I know I messed up editing last week's show, okay? I know. I'm sorry. There were about like 20 to 30 minutes. I don't know how it happened. Sometimes there's a lot of pieces. Sometimes I'm doing a lot of cutting, and it was a mess, and I know that, and I apologize. I don't think I've done that too many times, but I will ensure a lot this week. I will go over pretty much every piece, every audio clip that we have, to ensure that it is aligned. So my apologies to everyone who had to endure that.
Do people know that you have the worst internet known to man?
I don't know what it is. So like any other time when I'm not recording with you, and I'm not saying it's a Brian Davids thing. I'm just saying I don't record over Skype with anyone else. Just you.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. But any other time, my internet is perfectly fine. Like, I stream gorgeous HD on HBO now all the time. Netflix, all those apps run perfectly for me. Collider on YouTube, all that stuff just runs flawlessly. But it's when we record over Skype, I have horrible luck. And I think before we hit record, I reset my internet 4 times. One of them you were unaware of because I had already done it before we started the first time. So very unlucky with that as well.
Are your roommates using bandwidth as we do this show as well?
Roommates as in my sister who's home from college.
Your gorgeous roommates.
And my mother.
Your attractive, your sexy roommates. 3 single women, 19, 20 years old.
No. I make them get off.
I was trying to help you out here, Snelling. Come on.
That's okay. I'm an honest guy. It's fine. But I with this new job, I'm hoping to move out soon. And well, unless I have to buy a new car, considering, again, that's at the mechanics and probably about to expire. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. My personal life is in shambles. We've moved on from housekeeping. Brian Davids, I'm going to take a step back. What do you have for us when it comes to Collider content this week?
Well, on Monday's Movie Talk, Kristian Harloff came out swinging as he was talking smack about the hat theory. Again, it's a theory, only he called it the hat rule. Again, I've called it theory from day one. 4 weeks ago, when I first posited this hat theory, I said at that time that I don't quite believe in it because during that week, Mark Ellis was wearing a hat to cover up his new haircut after Banggate went terribly awry. That was the week where everyone was giving him a hard time about his bangs. So I knew it wasn't a foolproof theory. The point is, the trend still exists. There is less hat wearing in that studio, whether it's guys like Griffin, Riley, even Kristian and Mark. They're not wearing hats nearly as much as they used to. So it's still a valid point, even if there is no official dress code in that regard. But, Kristian had to fire off pot shots at us. And, look, part of this show is about speculation. It's fun. Like Ken Knapsack said, speculation is fun. They do it too. He doesn't want to be a grumpy guy and take that away from the fans. I mean, that's what we're here to do, which is represent the fan experience. And you don't see guys like Ryan Johnson or Pablo Hidalgo mocking Kristian directly if one of his theories is wrong because they can't do it. They wouldn't do it. But it's this kind of fandom, though, that keeps the residuals flowing. That's what keeps fans coming back for more. It's being able to speculate about things that they enjoy. So I'm not going to stop speculating even if I'm wrong. It's about having something interesting to talk about. We can't talk about movies or TV shows, so I've got to come up with things that are interesting to listen to.
Well, not just that. We truly do get a kick out of hearing them reference us on Collider video, because it doesn't happen often.
They're not referencing us. They're just firing pot shots at us indirectly.
It's not
like... Still, it's one thing if it's like, oh, Brian Davids said that there's a hat dress code or something, but it's not even that. They're just giving us dirty looks and mocking us from afar. So, kid context, you're taking this completely, away from what it's supposed to be. Fun speculation. That's what Ken Knapsack calls it, at least. So, follow Ken's approach to all this.
It's interesting that you say that, considering Ken likes to dance around when he talks about this show, and yet you're taking his side, because Kristian's usually on our team. But is this still, are you still butthurt about him giving you a hard time about the Dunkirk thing?
Makuga and Ken have been on our side of late. Kristian has not been on our side of late. And I'm still butthurt, though, that Kristian did remove context about a couple things, including the Dunkirk thing, which was not a theory. That was actual fact, and he knew the facts, but he chose to omit the facts just to make me look bad. So these are multiple instances where Kristian Harloff is going out of his way to make me look bad, even though I never said, yes, this is a real thing. This hat rule, it exists. It's a fun thing to talk about.
You said going out of his way, so you fully believe that he does this on purpose?
Well, he did it again on Wednesday. He had Jeremy mock the fact that he was wearing a hat as well. So it continued.
I would love to see them, and maybe if they had taken my idea and done coffee with Kristian and Ken, we could have seen...
Hey, that was both of our ideas. Come on now.
We could have seen them talk about us in that way. I'm so intrigued by the idea that we disrupt what they do. Like every morning, Kristian goes in every Monday morning and talks about what we said that was great and what we said that was idiotic. And I would love to see the reaction of everyone else in that office when that gets brought up.
There's probably a gag order off the air about us, too. There's a gag order in our regard on the air, but I think there's one off the air, too. So.
Oh, absolutely.
By the way, Kristian Harloff referenced the conspiracy that I came up with in regards to why Top 5 was on Tuesday of last week. So he referenced it. He didn't quite mock it the same way he mocked the hat theory or hat rule, as he called it, but he also brought that up as a supposed conspiracy.
What is Harwolf? Are you making a Paul Wolf reference? What is that?
I don't need to explain it.
Okay.
Self-explanatory.
On Monday's Movie Talk, why does Campia hate the Golden Globes? Like, it's one thing for people to know that the Golden Globes aren't supposed to be taken as serious as something like the Oscars. Everyone knows that. But no one else has a problem with it. What on earth about the Golden Globes makes Campia's blood boil? What's interesting about all of this is before the Golden Globes, his face would turn red at the mention of that topic. But on Monday, the day after the Globes aired, he was like giving them props a little bit and giving them a little bit of credit. And then but that quickly turned around again, and then he had a problem with literally everything discussed. But I just thought that it's so weird that he has to have such a big problem with the Golden Globes. I don't know.
Well, he is Canadian, so maybe they rejected his application to be a part of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. maybe it's long-running resentment that he did not get into that enigmatic club that they have with the HFPA, wherever it's called. But yeah, I mean, the thing about the Globes is it's the most fun show to watch. Everybody's drunk. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody knows it's meaningless, but it's still a fun show compared to the uptight, stuffy Oscars.
I actually love that people get to win at the Golden Globes that would never stand a chance at the Oscars. I mean, I do
comedy.
like the fact that there are people that are genuinely happy when they get that award. So, I don't know. Like I said, I just don't see what it is about the Golden Globes that makes his blood boil in that way. But anyway, the only other note I had on Monday's Movie Talk is I noticed that there were no Twitter questions. I didn't really feel like that they were running out of time, but I guess they did. I don't know if they had something else planned that day, but happened to notice that.
They did reach their usual cutoff point. They could have gone longer, but sometimes it happens. But shifting to Wednesday, like I said, Jeremy kind of introduced the hat mocking thing on that day. But then there was a weird moment later in the episode. Apparently, John was messaged during the show on his computer that Ashley's getting wet over there where she is sitting. And that was in reference to a leak that was coming from the roof. And then Ashley replies, "Sucking that toe, threw me off." And then John has to clarify, "There's a leak in the roof is what I meant. They just texted me there's some water falling on her." So everybody's laughing. Then John says, "Ashley's getting wet. Let's hurry up and finish the show." Jeremy's joking how he's swiping right. So it was this big ordeal. Lots of double entendres. Classic moment, but not even as classic as what happened on Thursday. So did you get a chance to see this bizarre moment on Wednesday, though?
I did not. I saw the first half of that show. Go figure. The one part that I do miss during the week, it's probably something that'll appear on Best of the Week, right? That'll give me a reason to watch that. Sure.
It was on it. It was definitely on it. So, well, on Thursday, there was no live show. There was no Campia either. So people started speculating, wait a second, did he get in trouble for the Ashley's getting wet stuff from the day before? I mean, we've been around the block enough to know that Campia absences, unexpected absences can be a warning sign. But they did say up top that he wasn't there. So typically when they don't say a reason or that he's not there, that's when there's trouble. But the fact that they referenced that he wasn't there usually means things are okay. But in the comments, people were going crazy, like, "Oh, did Campia get in trouble? Is this MG situation all over again?" So there you go with that. But
I did get a scoop on that, by the way.
Okay. Do you want to get into it now?
And you're not going to be impressed by it.
Well, hold on. I'm not saying I believe that there's a conspiracy here.
Oh,
I'm just saying that's what people were saying in response to Wednesday. So
I'm going to throw all that away. I'm going to end the speculation right here and right now. I asked Kristian, why didn't Campia
Did you DM
host?
him?
I did.
Did you DM him?
I did.
Okay.
I said, why didn't Campia host? His response was just, he was unavailable. And I said, unavailable as in
suspended?
Something happened to him? He said, no. And that's your hot take of the week by Ryan Snelling.
Appreciate that.
No problem. I just put all the speculation to bed for you.
But here's the thing. This episode was Schnepp, Kristian, and Jeremy.
And Kristian,
those three.
Kristian was on fire, by the way. I said it in the time that Campia took off and we relied on him and Mark to host the shows throughout the week. I said Kristian is not the better host compared to Mark Ellis. But for one, I was so happy to see him hosting. And two, I thought he absolutely killed it. So props to Kristian. It was good to see him back in that chair.
The whole panel killed it, to be honest. And Jeremy recommended something that was interesting at the top. He said that they need an other bar because there's all this news that drops before the show. And they always have to explain, as sometimes happens, some things drop before we could fix the sidebar. How about they just put in a breaking news bar so they can account for anything that drops right before the show? That way they don't have to do this whole song and dance every episode. So I think Jeremy's idea can be improved upon by just putting a breaking news tab just in case. And I don't know. I thought that was a good suggestion. What about you?
I think that is a fantastic suggestion, especially when Tuesday on Heroes, the sweaty question of the week warrants its own block in the sidebar. So breaking news on Movie Talk could absolutely have its own as well. Great idea.
And strangely enough, Kristian said Scorsese correctly, which is weird since he's so inconsistent on my other pronunciation lessons. So
he still says Jeremy.
He still says he's corrected it a few times, but yeah, he still falls back on old habits sometimes. But the highlight of this episode, though, or a couple highlights, it led to this, but Schnepp's constipation rant about the Nicole Santa Claus movie with Anna Kendrick. It's going to be replayed until the end of time because it made Jeremy turn red and laugh like crazy. Schnepp was just going crazy about what would happen because it seemed like such a ridiculous idea that someone would come up with it on the toilet. And this was just a fun show, though, and that moment led to Jeremy and his indoctrination into the Shit Rats Club. He gave his Shit Rats face. So now someone did a meme inside of Schmoeville, and they compiled every shit rat so far. I think there's 8. I think Jeremy is the 8th person to do it. So all this fun happens with Campea not there. So then all these commenters were saying, oh, Campea needs to take off more shows, etc. But all in all, Thursday was a classic episode. Go back and watch it if you haven't already.
What about anything on Friday Movie Talk?
Well, I did watch it because Mark Ellis was on with Roca, with Perry, I think Dennis as well. But Roca talked about something that inspired me to talk about something else. He referenced how he's tired of DCEU referencing how they want to make fun films. He's over the word fun, and I kind of agree with him in a separate fashion. I can't stand when people use the word fun to review movies, or when they say, I had a good time with this movie, because it's such a cop-out as you're not making a definitive statement about whether you like the movie or not. You're giving yourself, you're allowing yourself to hedge your bets later if everybody doesn't like the film. You can say, well, I had fun with it, but yeah, it's a piece of crap. So Campea does this a lot too. He'll say it was fun, he had a good time with it, but it gives him a way to kind of shift his opinion about the film by not over-committing to it from the start. Do you know what I mean? I do.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I try not to use that word as well. But I'm not going to go into my philosophy when it comes to rating movies. But I do see what you're saying. But I thought you were going to get into the fact that you don't think that Warner Brothers needs to keep saying that. Like, as if that's the only way they can make a good movie is if they make it fun. Which I would also agree with him as well. But
I agree with Roca on that sense, too. But it just inspired this other thought in my head because so many reviewers, I'm not singling out Campea, but so many people are relying on, it was fun, I had a good time with it. And it's not strong criticism, or it's not a strong review to describe a feeling you had. It doesn't describe the film. It doesn't help out my experience either.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, too. And I'm with you, Roca.
Now, TV Talk. Allison Keene from .com guested this week, and they did something strange. Instead of having 5 people on the panel, they chose to put Griffin on a couch with his own cam, which did not have a microphone. So they would just flash to Griffin laughing here and there because they didn't mic him up. SPR left halfway through, and then Griffin sat in her chair. But it was a really strange episode. I'm not sure why they didn't do 5 people, but it seems like they're going out of their way to integrate some of the .com personalities into the video portion of Collider. I think they did it on another show as well. I want to say Heroes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that another .com person, not Frosty, came on another video show recently.
I was going to say, I'm only familiar with Frosty coming on. I don't recall ever seeing anybody else, but that doesn't mean it's not true. But the only thing I can come up with, the reason why they didn't have 5 panelists is because TV Talk is already the most overstuffed show during the week, that having that 5th panelist would probably just kind of make it too long. I mean, it was already over an hour with just those, so that's the only reason I could come up with that they made the switch. That way they could both appear but not take up more time by being on at the same time. So,
but since they talked previously about wanting to hook up Griffin with Allison, I was surprised that they made the decision to put him on the couch.
Yeah.
So I don't know, not a huge deal, but Mark Andraka was on Heroes this week with Robert, Amy, Schnepp. No Campea. So to follow up our point from last week, Campea does keep his distance. He doesn't allow us to get too sick of him on the genre shows. He's very good about spacing out his appearances, so we didn't get that overlap that we were complaining about last week.
And several people in the comments section from last week's show were talking about how they sort of felt that fatigue as well. So I guess we're not the only ones. What do you think about Mark Andreyko? Because I like him. I get annoyed when his presence is so kind of powerful, and there are small moments where I feel like I'm not saying he means to, but just due to his personality, I feel like there are times when he accidentally like sort of talks down to people, and he can't help but overpower certain guests, and I got a little bit of that, and like I said, I don't think it's mean-spirited. I don't think he's doing it on purpose. I think it's just his personality, but I get that vibe. I really did love the fact, though, that I think the primary reason he came on was to promote Love is Love, his new comic book. I loved hearing about that, so that is one reason why I'm absolutely glad that he was on. And of course, he knows his stuff. If anybody sees him on other places like Screen Junkies, they know that he is an intelligent guy and absolutely worthy of being on Heroes. I mean, he's a comic book writer. So I don't know. I liked him on the show and would like to see him, but I did pick up on those vibes. I don't know if you did or not.
I do pick up on that. I mean, I just watched him destroy Scott Mantz and Scott Mantz's love for La La Land because he didn't like that movie for some reason. But do you think that his time on that other show, Cinematic Combat, do you think that all of his time on that show carries over to shows that are not supposed to be argumentative in that sense, and so to where he can't help being a bit condescending? Do you think that has something to do with it?
It could, only because there have been several times when they have brought in an outsider to appear on a Movie Talk or another one of the genre shows, and they just you can tell that they haven't seen the show before because they aren't quite grasping the format. So I think it's a little bit of that and a little bit of what you said. Sure. He's an aggressive guy. He's an aggressive guy. He is.
I mean, that's why he's good at movie fights, cinematic combat, because he knows how to get in people's heads, I guess. So moving to Nightmares, Clark apparently lost her voice at the last minute, so Riley hosted. Schnepp, Cobster, Perry were there, I believe. I didn't get to watch the whole thing. Do you know how our boy Riley did?
No, I did not. But I will say that all of the content that I missed this week, of all of it, I'm going to go back and watch Nightmares because I love that Riley's hosting. I don't watch Nightmares because Clark typically hosts, but I'm just saying I feel like I haven't seen Riley in forever. I don't think I saw the other appearance from Cobster, so I am going to go back and watch this tomorrow night.
Wait, you don't watch Nightmares because Clark typically hosts? Why would you say that?
I literally just cleared that up and said that's not the reason why.
Okay, you confused me.
Sorry. No, let me say it again. I feel like I was confusing people saying, I'm going to go back and watch Nightmares because Riley hosted, but I didn't want people to think, hey, he doesn't watch Nightmares usually because Clark Wolf hosts.
Oh, okay,
that wasn't the point that I was trying to get across. That's all I'm saying.
Well, moving to Jedi Council, speaking of guests that they haven't had on in a while, I would like to see Kyle Newman come back to be on Jedi Council. He had a great episode, I don't know, at some point last year. So whomever is in charge of bookings, get Kyle back on the show. This week we had Tiffany, Roca, Kristian, Mark Ellis. So again, more cushion from Campia, so we avoid that overlap. And one of the funniest moments, it has nothing to do with what they talked about, but during John Roca's plug, they put up the spoiler alert stamp during his plug. It killed me for some reason.
Cody. Silly Cody.
Silly Cody.
He also did that again during the live show, and we'll get to that, but he had the spoiler alert.
It was... Right, the spoiler alert button was all over the place during the live show.
Thursday was a difficult day for Cody, apparently.
He was practicing for later, for Brett's sake.
Right, absolutely.
Now, let's get to mailbag, last weekend's mailbag. Because Campy is doing them by himself now, there was something that he addressed, which was kind of strange. We've known for a while that Kristian's title was the Director of Development. Well, since John came back as the executive producer, creator, head of programming, John's got like 25 titles. Apparently, he renamed Dennis's title to something else, but he also changed the title of Kristian's position to head of development. But last week, he couldn't say who had that position. He said you could guess who it was, but he wouldn't clarify exactly who was his head of development. We all knew it was Kristian, but he wouldn't say it for some reason.
That's odd.
Yeah, it was really odd. So is Campea, or was Campea, waiting for the live show's announcement to come down before making this announcement? I'm not sure. It's the only thing I can come up with. But in general, it seems like John, especially now that he's back in charge, it's like they have to rechange their titles every 6 months. These guys have had more title changes than any other YouTube channel out there.
I'm just curious. I'm not following. Why would the Thursday announcement have affected that regardless? Because he had cleared it up, and if we knew about it, I'm assuming that everyone in the office knew about it before we did, that it wasn't affecting his presence at Collider at all. So why would those two things have a correlation?
Because now that he's no longer the director of development, he's the head of development. So part of me was thinking, well, if he's now the head of development, maybe that means he has more responsibility at Collider. Therefore, that's another reason why he had to take a step back from Schmoes Know, at least in terms of the live show.
Yeah, I don't know.
So they're expanding. They've made it no secret. They are expanding. They're doing more shows like Awesometacular. And those are just the things that we know about. There are other things that they're working on that we're not even aware of yet. So I feel like head of development has a bit more on Kristian's plate, and that is why maybe Campea held back on announcing who his head of development was, or it's something a bit more practical, like Kristian hadn't signed his new contract yet. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there.
Was this week's or last weekend's mailbag just Campea at the computer again?
As was today's. We're recording on Saturday.
Right.
He is doing the solo mailbags again. There's been relatively good feedback in the comments. The Schmoeville Facebook group does not like the Campea solo mailbags, but so there's kind of a divide. People on YouTube seem to like the old school way of John doing it, but people in Schmoeville want to see Sinead and Roca and whomever. They want to see a panel. So the thing is, though, if Campea does them, they save the cost, and they're able to put that cost elsewhere towards other shows. So
are they still like 30 to 40 minutes like they were at when the panelists took part?
Yeah, they're about, I'd say, 40 minutes each.
Okay.
40 minutes each. So he just goes down a big list that people submit, and I like it. I mean, he again clarified what the orange citrus siesta is. After all, it's a vitamin shot that he puts in. There's different flavors. One of them is orange. And you get the kind of personal things that you kind of lost. Like we used to know a lot, or I used to know a lot more about John because of these weekend mailbags. I used to know a lot more of the details, but since he took a step back, some of these details were hard to come by. So imagine having a Facebook Live every weekend where you hear little odds and ends. We didn't get those for a while, but now we're getting them again. So I like it in that sense because it helps this show.
Well, I don't like the fact that he ruined the mystery behind his drink. I was having a lot of fun with that. One of my favorite inside jokes from this show.
Well, it's still the citrus siesta as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
And we're still going to do the fake ad at some point.
I love it. I also love how I just realized that I'm asking you questions as if I have no idea what Collider Video is. Like, I just asked you to explain to me how mailbag works. That shows how truly disconnected I am this week. I'm horrible. Fine. I am horrible. My apologies.
You are the worst.
Yes, I am awful. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to throw you off.
Well, are you ready for the mispronunciation of the week?
Aren't I always ready for the mispronunciation of the week?
I don't know.
I can't wait to hear. I can't wait for you to hear my reaction to this, but go ahead.
All right, this week's mispronunciation of the week, a.k.a. the segment for those who respect the artist they're discussing. This week's entry is dedicated to the recent Golden Globes winner for Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture Drama. I'm talking about Isabelle Huppert, or that French woman, according to Schmoeville, Isabelle Huppert. The H is silent, Huppert. So basically, Isabelle Huppert. Huppert is the lame brain English way of saying it. Huppert. The H is silent, Huppert.
Okay. I watched
Say it.
Huppert.
Thanks. Got it. Say Isabelle.
Isabelle Huppert.
Thank you. Oh, one more thing. For the second time, folks, Moonlight's standout performer is named Mahershala Ali. Not that Ali guy, as some of you are saying.
Okay, my reaction to au pair is that...
Huppert.
Sorry, I'm from Kentucky. My reaction is that I read so many people discussing her in Schmoeville. I saw a Twitter exchange between you and someone else talking about this actress. I watched the entire Golden Globes. I saw the moment that she won. Apparently, her name did not register, because when I saw it in your Twitter conversation, when I saw it in the Facebook group, I had no idea who this actress was. And it took me aback a little bit, because there were so many people claiming that she was like a wonderful actress, and part of me's kind of like, I'm questioning that, because I don't think you know what the hell you're talking about. I think
she has a worldwide reputation as one of the greatest international actresses, kind of like Mark Rylance. Mark Rylance is starting to become more famous in Hollywood. He was known as like the greatest theater actor for the longest time, but Isabelle Huppert, she was known for a variety of French films, but she was also in I Heart Huckabees, David O. Russell's film. That's where I know her from. So she's got a great reputation. She just hasn't done a lot of stuff domestically that we would know about, but her reputation precedes her.
I'm not trying to cheapen her reputation at all. I was just questioning how certain people knew who she was, because I had never heard of her. But yeah, good for her, by the way. Congratulations on that win. Great job,
Isabelle Huppert. Isabelle Huppert.
Great job, au pair.
Stop it.
By the way, Mark Rylance, the BFG was trash. That movie is awful.
Hey, but he's going to be in Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk.
Yes.
With a certain extra who's not an extra.
The BFG is a horrible film. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew my stance on that. So, did we, for the first time ever, run through Collider content in like under 45 minutes?
Don't jinx it.
Is that what I'm seeing here? I think we just crossed the 38th minute, and it's blowing my mind.
Maybe you should crash your car more often, Snelling.
Are you blaming this on me?
No, I'm just saying.
I was going to say, you're usually the one that takes us over.
Maybe you should be more disconnected from Collider more often, Snelling. I'm quoting some of our comments, because people usually pile on to things like that.
Yeah, I can see Baby Joker now. Man,
see what a better show it is when you don't say anything, Snelling.
Right. Now, if only Snelling could just go all the way and not be on the show at all. The audience doesn't know it, but we just took a break. I'm not opposed to taking breaks and plugging our own stuff. Everyone else gets to do it. Why can't we? Like, we're forced to promote Sight and Sound and Film Schlubs at the end of the show, and by that time, people have already checked out, probably ended the show. We should be allowed to insert it in the middle during our pee breaks. What do you think about that?
Is this where you want me to plug Film Schlubs?
I mean, it makes sense, right?
Guys, you can find me and my TV film podcast at filmschlubspodcast.com, wherever podcasts are found. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at BDF331.
You can find me on the Sight and Sound podcast. What if the people at Collider took our lead and then they just started dropping, like, you can find me on YouTube at Jeremy Johns, or the like right before buy or sell. What I will say, though, I do want to apologize for inserting my own personal opinion on the film The BFG, because I think someone in last week's comment section said that we talked too much about our personal opinions. Am I remembering that correctly?
It may have been a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was a week ago.
I think it was last week's show.
They missed the point of that, though. The point was that Campea went out of his way to shoot down one of Kristian's theories. The point wasn't what we felt on the matter. It was the point that Campea went out of his way to shoot down Kristian's theory that we're moving towards 2 films a year. So there's going to be overlap in some cases. I mean, we're talking about shows that base all of their subjects around movies or TV shows. So there's going to be some overlap, but the point of that discussion was to point out what Campea did, not to provide her own takes.
I'm a little upset no one recognized my brilliant joke from last week. I had made the joke that John Campea had a maple syrup ranch. Ladies and gentlemen, a maple syrup ranch. And
very good, very good.
I thought it was hilarious, and not a single person acknowledged that I'd made that horrible joke. I even edited in, for effect, a larger pause than what actually existed between the two of us to ensure that people had heard what I had said, and it didn't work. I thought it was a shoe-in for a great comment, a great comedic moment.
I thought the Tim Hortons supplier joke would get some kind of reaction, but that was overlooked too.
Yeah, people usually have a problem when you bring that up. So I'm surprised that people just ignored that entire exchange. I also left that pause in there because that's something that Le Batard would do, and I made it I made sure to acknowledge the fact that I was trying to implement some Le Batard style into this show. And since then, I have learned that Kristian Harloff despises Dan Le Batard. So all the more reason to involve him into our show. It also reminds me of what Colin Cowherd does. Have we talked about that before? About how Cowherd just has the longest pauses while he's talking?
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And he's looking at someone in the control room. He'll just be like, and I don't think anybody can stop Aaron Rodgers. And he'll look around in the studio, and he'll just, not a word will be said for 30 seconds. And then he'll say, am I wrong?
I think Harwolf is a Skip Bayless guy. That's his boy, I think.
Oh, God, I hope not. Jesus. Apparently, Le Batard said that MMA is not a sport, and that's what got Kristian all riled up. I don't know. Anyway.
Is Kristian really that into MMA, though? I know he's a fan, but is he that into it to where he get upset about it?
I don't know. I think Dan Le Batard is like Kristian's Golden Globes. Like how Campea feels about the Golden Globes. I think it's Kristian just is upset at Le Batard for no earthly reason. Of all people, and I know this is going somewhere that this podcast doesn't need to go. I'll course correct here, but of all the people to get Dan Le Batard, I feel like it should be Kristian Harloff, because he is sports radio for people that don't get or have to get sports radio. He produces his own thing, and I feel like Kristian should appreciate that. But apparently he doesn't. This is what happens when I take back control of the show. We did 38 minutes with you, and they were crisp and fresh, and I'm going down this sports radio talk. Anyway, let's course correct, like I said, and get into the Schmoes Know Show, number 265, Wahlberg v. Affleck Films. Let's arrange this in a way to where we talk about everything else, but Kristian Harloff's exit beforehand, and that's how we will end the show, because that's probably going to be the beefiest section of the show. So let's just leave that at the end and start off with everything else. At the main table,
who's on our cast?
Kristian Harloff hosted. Mark Ellis co-hosted. The other panelists at the table were Brett Sheridan and Sasha Pearl Raver. I really butchered that segment on last week's show. And am I right, though? So far, I'm in the clear.
I wasn't listening.
Okay.
To be honest, Brett, Ellis, Kristian, SPR experience. In the Wangers table, we had Ken, Makuga, Riley, and Copster.
Yes. Riley looking like he had come straight out of 8 Mile, and then later on there was a Colin Farrell joke, which I also appreciated. You know what I want to talk about first? Only because Kristian brought it up fairly early in the show. Let's go on and talk about the Fantasy Schmoedown League. Because apparently, friend of the show, Joshi Makuga, is also friend of the show, Schmoedown Rundown, and he is shepherding this thing, which I was very surprised, because
Whoa. He just he helped them come up with the rules. I mean, they can't actually run a league because of a variety of reasons, but, I mean, if you're going to get someone to come up with the rules to a game, there's no better person than Josh Makuga, as we found out in our recent interview. The guy, as I've said for years, is the game master.
Oh, he is totally qualified. I'm bringing up the fact that he has seemed to turn over a new leaf when it comes to becoming involved in these two podcasts, the SK podcast.
I feel betrayed. I feel betrayed, to be honest. I thought we really hit it off. I can't believe he's already spending time in somebody else's bed.
That's not where I was going. I thought it was interesting how Makuga made this turnaround recently, where he's actually involving himself more in our podcast and in their podcast. Also, Kristian Harloff is we've known previously that he's a big Schmoedown fan, but he has some kind of hand involved in this. So, is he in the Schmoeville Facebook group? I don't think I've ever seen him appear anywhere.
His username is Kristian Harloff.
Oh, okay. I'll look out for that then.
Good.
But anyway, let's talk about this Fantasy Schmoedown League. I know people are gearing up for this thing. I've seen a lot of people talking about it. Me personally, when I heard the idea, I think a week before last, and was like, okay, I'm curious to see where this is going. And then when they revealed the rules and what it would entail for everyone to be a part of this, I got a headache. I don't think I can participate in this. Like, it would work great for our show, and we're having a behind-the-scenes conversation right now. This would work great for our show if me and you were in a league and we updated each other and everyone on how our teams are doing. But to keep track of one more thing for this podcast, I don't know. Am I overreacting? How did you feel when you heard all of this explained?
It's a lot for us to do because we already have a lot to do with this podcast. So if we were to form a league, we would need one of our league members to kind of run it. The problem is we don't know 6 other people in Schmoeville that actually like us enough to participate with us.
Well, we could probably get the people who were on this podcast before you. I might be able to talk Luke Jaggers into it, maybe Noah Outlaw, if they don't already have leagues. Or did I miss the fact that you can have more than one league, right? Just like in fantasy basketball, I could be a part of more than one league. What's to stop someone else from joining us that already has one, you know?
Do people know that I'm the greatest fantasy sports player to ever live? I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I win every year. 14-team leagues, experienced players. I'm the best in the big 3.
What sports? Baseball, basketball, and football?
Yep. I win all the time, frequently. Tough leagues, tough settings. You name it, I win it.
Interesting. Well, now you're making me want to do this, at least between us. If people don't want to join our league, that's fine.
Two-person league. We just have all-star teams.
I don't want to sound desperate. We would, yeah. I don't want to sound desperate, but if you want to be in our league, let us know. And if we do put one together, then we will involve you. But I don't know. I kind of want to see what you're made of. Now that you've just said that, maybe you'll turn that big 3 into a big 4. I do. I don't know. It seems like a lot. Like, it's going to take me forever to study all those rules, but I just couldn't tell if I was overreacting or not because my head just started to spin at the idea of keeping up with this. Because this isn't just a season for the Schmoedown is a year. Like, there's no off season. It's not like we're only paying attention for a few months. You know what I mean?
At least there's not a lot of matches, though. I mean, 1 to 2 matches a week. It's manageable in that sense. With basketball, there's so many games. Baseball, there's games almost every day, 6 days a week. So, I mean, this is child's play compared to what we usually have to do for real fantasy sports.
So tell me, I still don't have an answer. Am I overreacting?
No, you're not. We have a lot to do already. So if we're going to do this, we have to have one of our league mates run the league for us and do all the stat calculations because we do not have time to do it.
Okay. Well,
so it's very simple.
Get at us, Schmoeville, and we'll talk. But anyway, I do, aside from everything I just said, I do like the idea, and I think a lot of people are going to have a ton of fun with it. Regardless, I'm going to have a lot of fun seeing people talk about their own leagues and their own teams. So that's awesome, though. I mean, just another great reason, or another great way that the Schmoedown is gaining more and more success as time goes on. So, but anyway, I think that's all I have to say about that. I don't think I have any more notes.
So yeah. What'd you think of the fact that Ellis did a show in Omaha, Nebraska, Brett's backyard, and Brett's mom did not go to Ellis's show. Mark pretended to be upset, and apparently Brett's mom could be on the show in a couple weeks. So we might have an interesting confrontation between Ellis and Brett's mom in a couple weeks. So what was your reaction to this? And don't say you don't have one.
But I don't have one. No. Honestly, my gut reaction was,
did you believe his anger, or do you think he was just pretending for the camera?
That was all shtick.
Well, Brian. I know, but I'm trying to get a different response out of you.
What I was going to say, my response is that when he was bringing that up, I recalled the fact that I told him that I was going to come see him in Nashville, and then I blew him off because something came up. He was in Nashville like a month ago. I told him, like, yeah, I'm coming, and totally blew him off because something legitimately happened and I couldn't make it down there. But that's what I was thinking of. But I'm glad that he did not yell at me on air. I did think it was pretty funny, and I'm hoping that she did it on purpose, like just to troll him. But I guess we'll find out if she does come on the show here in the next few weeks. That was pretty funny.
Brett did Brett to the Future for Warrior, great film, of course, and Makuga had the timely reference to the fact that it was filmed in Pittsburgh. You can always count on that. I swear to God, I think he's looked up every film that's ever filmed in Pittsburgh just to have in his back pocket for reference on Collider or Schmoes.
That's how he gets the girls, Brian. Stuff like that.
But then Makuga had this weird moment where he made a comment about Little League for Ellis because they referenced Kristian whacking himself with a bat. And then Makuga's like, that was like Little League for Ellis. It was like his JTE fat comment of this week. It didn't make a lot of sense. Everybody kind of stopped in their tracks like, wow, that was kind of mean, even though no one was quite sure what he was saying. So I love Makuga, friend of the show, Josh Makuga, even though he betrayed us. But back-to-back weeks of weird kind of record-screeching comments.
I love you, Joshy. What... Did you honestly think that Makuga or JTE could have been the person that was leaving the show this week?
No.
Not any bit of you thought that one of those two people could have been leaving.
I briefly weighed the idea of, is JTE pissed off about the fat comment? But then I said, no, JTE needs this. He needs the Schmoedown. It's too important. There's no way he's going to leave. I never worried about Josh or JTE.
Okay, I was just curious because I thought that was a big moment last week, and I thought about literally every cast member leaving the show. Like I weighed like what are they doing in their careers right now? What have they been tweeting about lately? And I was trying to create this formula. I consider JTE. I'm not gonna lie. I consider that. Like you said, it was briefly, but I did touch on that.
I was kind of disappointed in the main subject of this episode just because we just talked about Ben Affleck a few months ago when The Accountant came out.
Yep.
I'm all Ben Afflecked out, to be honest with you. He's just taken over the news cycle of late with his wishy-washy Batman comments as he postures with the press and postures with Warner Brothers. And I don't know, man. I'm tired of Ben Affleck. They just talked about him. I kind of like that they're doing this whole versus thing, but honestly, the execution of hearing them list every movie and being like, no, yeah, that just got kind of redundant for me. So I know some people want to see them refine this a bit more, but it just didn't work for me.
Well, for me, I shared those sentiments before the show. Like when I saw the title before it actually started streaming, I thought, wow, we just covered Affleck Films.
Ben Affleck.
They started that segment, and I actually had a lot of fun with it.
Did you have a good time with it?
I did. I had fun.
You had fun?
And
okay.
it was the best show of the year because I had fun.
Do you understand why some people may not have had fun with it?
It was the best YouTube experience of the year. And I'm probably going to be talking about it for the next several months.
Do you understand why some people may have had problems with it? Are you one of those guys who understands?
I do love to play devil's advocate, but no, I don't understand it because this segment was fucking great. Did you get what you wanted out of me?
I'll be fair. I'll give it another chance, but I want them to refine it based on this first attempt. I want them to review the tape and be like, let's make this a bit better. That way we know going in which set of films, which years we're comparing, and that way we know which rounds to create. As long as you have different phases.
Let's hold off a minute. This show only has 58,000 views. So it is not considered a weekly success for the Schmoes Know Show. Just to make that clear. When you factor in the budget. Okay, I'm over this. Anyway, my honest thoughts are I had a lot of fun with the game. And from the title of the show, you think Ben Affleck versus Mark Wahlberg. There's got to be a clear winner. Like Ben Affleck. Right? I mean, is that what your first go-to reaction is when you are asked that question? Ben Affleck is your winner?
Ben Affleck has had the more decorated career, that's for sure. The fact that he directs really puts him over the top. What was the Mark Wahlberg film that first drew your attention? I'm curious. Mine was Fear. That was what put him on the map, as well as Reese Witherspoon, for me.
I'm going to have to look that up because... It's gonna be something stupid because I'm so young. I guarantee it. Honestly, you know what it is?
You'll probably say Planet of the Apes. You'll say Planet of the Apes. I guarantee.
No, it actually isn't. Like I knew he was in Planet of the Apes. I was aware of him, but when I was actually paying attention to Mark Wahlberg during Four Brothers.
Wow, that was like 12 years ago.
Yeah, 2005. I saw that movie in theaters, and I kind of hold it close to my heart because I watched it when I was that young. Like I probably think Four Betters is a better film than a lot of people. But that's a movie I do have fun with. But yeah, that for me that's the movie, Four Brothers. And then of course you kind of Shooter was probably the next one because I hadn't seen The Departed when it came out. We Own the Night. I saw that movie in theaters. Not a lot of people recall that movie, but yeah, I was late to the game when it came to Mark Wahlberg. Shout out to anyone born in 1990. But anyway, yeah, I guess my point was that the reason why I liked the game so much is I actually did love hearing them compare it. I liked the way they laid out the rules too, how they kind of did it in rounds, like every 5 years or so.
But they hadn't decided that. They needed to decide those things in advance next time. Like 1989 to 1998, they were kind of making them up on the fly. So yeah. As long as they refine this, I'm open to seeing it again. Also, please watch Fear. Okay. Definitely check that movie out because that's what put Wahlberg on the map as far as an actor, as far as acting goes, as well as Reese Witherspoon, a young Reese Witherspoon.
I think she's great too. Okay, yeah, I definitely will. I think they absolutely pulled it off with this game. I will talk about... No, I'll just bring it up now. After the Harloff announcement, I honestly had a hard time paying attention to the rest of the show. And this segment came up after his announcement. So I guess I didn't pick up on the things that you were talking about. The fact that it didn't run as smooth as it could have, because I was kind of in and out at that point.
Was the energy completely sucked out of the room, or was that just me? Because it felt like the entire room was deflated after that. I mean, my experience, I was deflated, but it felt like the entire show did not have its usual pep as a result.
I mean, I was definitely deflated. I just don't get why they did it so early for that reason.
Well, we've complained before that they keep us waiting throughout an entire episode to find out who's leaving, like they did with Miri. Maybe our feedback had them change that approach this time, so that we're not sitting in suspense the entire time. I don't know, but I was thinking about that. Like, what is the better way to do it? Do you have a good show first and then announce it and then ruin the good show that came first? Or do you tell it up front and then risk having a deflated show? So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. But yeah, it really took me out of the episode just because you can't focus on what's happening. You're just thinking about the future.
Well, you know me, Brian. I don't really actually have opinions. I just say whatever I want at any given time. I don't recall what my stance was on the Miri exit. But if I did say that I had a problem with it, I'm going to go back because I thought that this was worse. I think if it comes to doing it earlier in the show versus doing it at the end of the show, I prefer at the end of the show. Because this... But at the same time, though, Kristian Harloff's exit means a lot more to me than Miri Jedikin's exit. So
you didn't bond that much with Miri. I mean, she wasn't on camera every week. You didn't watch her for the same amount of time that I did. So this was bound to mean more no matter what, no matter where it was placed. The news, I just want to get through everything before we get to the big subject, but the news, Ken's joke about when they had to talk Marvel news, because we have to have that every week, slayed me. That absolutely killed me because it is almost obligatory on these shows that they have to have Marvel news. And then the point about, but you already know that because you drink and, well, I screwed it up. But you already know that because you drink and you, well, actually, people in the comments. So
yeah,
a couple great standout moments from Ken.
I really enjoyed Sasha's indie picks this week.
It's a great segment. It's a really great segment.
Yeah, I mean, I always enjoy it, but there were just some really funny things that happened this week in particular because Makuga kind of stole the show. So, for one, I laughed out loud. Probably one of my favorite quotes of the night was Makuga, right after Sasha revealed that Ketty film. Makuga's instant reaction was, I knew it was going to be GoPros on cats. Laugh out loud moment. And then, of course, he stole the show again, talking about the fact that his grandmother used to drown cats. And
yeah, that was creepy.
It was creepy, but I was laughing my ass off. I just thought that was such a ridiculous story. And I give Makuga a lot of shit for talking too much about his life growing up in Pittsburgh. But that was arguably one of my favorite backstories to Josh Makuga.
And then SPR set the internet on fire by saying that someone she knows saw Wonder Woman and said that it stinks. So a bunch of people were going crazy about that. And Sasha tried to qualify it. She said, this is the same person who told me about BBS and Suicide Squad. And I'll be honest, I've heard problems about Wonder Woman for a while from people that are connected to the situation. So I'm not going to act like some scooper here, but there is a trail of this stuff, and there was someone else who went to this early screening who said that there are problems as well. So I want to see it. I'm hoping for the best, but people were going nuts over this.
I am not going to be one of those people that hates on Sasha. For one, I never will be, I don't think. But two, how... maybe I shouldn't call the fans dumb. When are we as an audience going to stop blindly hoping for the best when it comes to these Warner Brothers and DC films? Have I said that I think Wonder Woman is going to be the game changer? Yes, I've said it multiple times. I think the trailers look fantastic. I am also not going to be surprised that Sasha said this. When Sasha revealed this, I kind of just thought, yeah, that sounds about right. Because I'm not going to be this blind fan with shudders. And so I know that no matter what, I think I would defend Sasha in this scenario. But, I mean, you have to consider the fact that they continue to let us down. So why can't this film be any different? So I didn't see that she got the backlash, but I hate that she got it. I mean, I always do. But this in particular, I mean, this is kind of on the fans, right?
Drew McQueenie was the first person to say that BVS was a mess, that Warner Brothers was worried about it. He was right. Finstock called that Suicide Squad was a mess. He was right. So at this rate, we kind of have to believe the early buzz. People can hate on Sasha. They're going to anyway. But she doesn't necessarily make things up for no reason. So I think there's credence to this.
If anything, I'm actually kind of glad she told us, you know?
Exactly. You temper your expectations now, and that's always a good thing when it comes to this stuff.
More than ever, I think I can actually find a way to enjoy the film a little bit more if I lower my expectations. So
exactly.
The problem was I wasn't listening to people like Bibiani, and I mean, I thought the same thing about Suicide Squad. I thought Finstock was nuts, but you know, here we are. So
you meant McQueenie, but you said Bibiani. But the thing is, when she was saying this, Tiffany was sitting right there. And obviously, Tiffany is a company woman. And it was a very awkward situation because Tiffany, she's employed by these people. She kind of has to defend them. And so she did her best by saying, you know, people are conditioned to already hate these films, and let's just not get ahead of ourselves. I mean, she said all she could say, but I can't stand when people give Tiffany a hard time for being gainfully employed. Like, you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you. So these people can act like they would do it differently in her shoes, but if they were in her shoes, they would not do it any differently.
No, you're absolutely right. In this segment of the show, we also got this excellent moment. I thought it was excellent before people brought it to our attention. Kristian seemed to be in La La Land during this segment. He was like looking around at things and not really paying attention to Sasha. And then we later got the context that people were trying to get him to fix the picture in the background. And that led to a great moment where I think it was Brett that said, we got to get Kristian to rent before he leaves, because he was sort of about to explode. He ends up exploding for another reason later on, but I thought that was a really fun part of the show. Had no idea the picture was crooked until it was brought to our attention, but that's fine.
Yeah, he was trying to explain the fantasy Schmoedown rules, and someone in the chat room said nope, and Kristian went crazy just because a lot of people put a lot of time into those rules.
Yeah.
Quick thing. I really liked the end title card that they finally added, which, you know, names of the hosts, the associate producers, etc.
This isn't the first time they did that.
That's the first time I've ever seen that end title card, or maybe because I watched the live stream and I don't see it typically at the end of the live stream.
Yeah, they've done it a couple of times now.
So you've seen that before? Okay, my mistake.
Yeah.
Well, it's great either way. I really like it. So
yeah, I agree too. And it also makes me remember that Beardo actually does work for the show, because he has gone a few weeks without an appearance or even a mention. So
don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Why, do you have a problem if Beardo appears on camera?
Well, he's affiliated with Cobster, so I naturally have to have a problem with him.
Does that mean Cobster has a problem with me because I'm affiliated with you?
Probably.
I wonder how many people hate me because I'm on a podcast with you and vice versa.
Guilty by association, pal.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
That's fine. Okay. Okay.
So now...
Well, one second. Sasha made a comment that people are going crazy about. She referenced the fact that Ben Affleck might be drinking again. Affleck has had a long battle with substance over the years. He's been in and out of rehab. That's no secret there. But I will say, I'm not defending Sasha's comments. I'm not agreeing with them necessarily either. We can be a fan of someone and not agree with everything they say. I mean, people think that we agree with everything Sasha says, that we defend everything she says. We don't do that. We're fans of hers, even if we do disagree on plenty of occasions.
Exhibit A, her opinion on the OA sucks.
Yeah, I love the OA, and yet she doesn't like Better Call Saul. I have friends on that show, so
she doesn't like Seinfeld, and that's my favorite sitcom of all time.
Mine too. So we disagree all the time, but look at the fact that what we're doing right now. We are talking about things that Sasha said on the show. We don't get that luxury all the time when it comes to the female co-hosts. Typically, they don't say anything. So I like the fact that we are able to discuss the person sitting in that chair. And I'll just say this. I saw a video from IGN of Affleck promoting Live by Night. He went on this long rant about the Batman, and something seemed off. That's all I'm going to say. Something seemed off. So I tweeted, I'm worried about Ben Affleck, and I posted the link to that video. And so I wasn't surprised that Sasha jumped to that conclusion. The difference is I didn't say he was doing X, Y, and Z. I just said I'm worried about him. So other people are seeing it too, is my point.
Affleck, just keep hitting your vape. You will be fine.
I mean, think about it. He's been perfect as a director so far, and now he has his first flop on his hands, directing-wise, and all people want to talk about is the Batman, which he's not ready yet as far as a script. So you can imagine how much stress and pressure he's under right now, and he's probably cracking a little bit.
Absolutely. And not to mention the fact that he just finished Justice League, and I mean, he is busy as hell. So,
I've been worried about Ben Affleck the same way I've been worried about Kristian Harloff for many months now. It's a perfect segue. Perfect freaking segue.
So,
can I rant for a second? Can I just say what I want to say about this, and then you can say whatever you want in response, or just go on your own rant?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I'm fine with that. Go ahead.
Well, when Kristian took 2 shows off for no particular reason back in September, I speculated on Schmoeville 27 that Kristian's family was going to become the new Mark stand-up. We referred to him as Emo Kristian at the time because he sent out those cryptic tweets. And I mentioned at the time how it must be really difficult on his family since he was juggling 2 channels, including the Schmoedown and the live show. And we've already seen at that point the Schmoes weekly content kind of take a backseat to Collider by necessity, as he had some stuff going on family-wise in September, October that prevented him from watching as many movies as usual. Plus the Collider expansion was underway, which gives further validation for why Copster was hired full-time to do Schmoes.
Was he not working at Fandango in addition to that during that month?
No. Fandango was not in the picture at that time.
Gotcha.
But it explains why Copster was hired full-time, because Kristian was getting busier and busier with Collider. Campea came on board. Jeremy came on board. They're producing more shows. It makes sense in addition to why Copster had to be hired. But after 9 months of running everything, clearly things have taken their toll on Kristian and his home front. So I wasn't surprised to hear this announcement, especially because of the Collider expansion, like I've been saying. Again, Campea renamed the job titles again for the 12th time, which takes Kristian from director of development to head of development. I don't know if his actual responsibilities change as a result of that title change, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. So, it was weird that Campea didn't come out and just say that Kristian was going to be head of development. I don't know why he had to wait. But that leads me to believe, though, that with Awesometacular. They've got other shows coming. And look, besides his family, I think, this is just what I think this is mostly Schmoedown motivated. I think his passion has shifted from being Christian Stern on the live show to being Christian Bischoff or Christian McMahon or Christian White. Those spectacular videos produced almost 500,000 total views. The live show, while amazing, just doesn't have the same kind of upside as the Schmoedown. So he mentioned that he would be away for 5 to 6 months, maybe even a year. I don't think we'll see him until the end of the year, once the big Schmoedown events come around, once episode 8 is approaching. I think he's going to be off a lot longer than people think. Of course, he'll want to be on the show to discuss those things at the end of the year, but I think this is going to be a long break, and hopefully he rediscovers that passion that he once had for the live show. But for now, I think it's important, though, that he focus on Collider, he focus on the Schmoedown, and have a bit more time for his family. And, you know, it's funny. They did that poll, whether the show should be moved to Wednesday or not, and this just proves that move to Wednesday was always going to happen because they needed to accommodate Mark's schedule because of stand-up, and they needed to accommodate the fact that Kristian was now going to be taking off many, many months. So I love that they did the poll even though they knew the decision already. So I know it's a bummer for a lot of people, but Ken Knapsack fills this void perfectly. Ken just might be the most talented guy on this crew. And that's the beautiful thing about this show, is that we've got a couple aces in the hole, like Ken and Josh, as well as Brett. I think this also opens the door for more women to be on the show, including more than just one woman on the show at the same time. So there's a lot of good things that can come out of this and hopefully bring us back a recharged, refreshed, and impassioned Kristian Harloff once again. So... And of course, he now has time to catch up on television.
Is that the end of your rant?
That's my rant.
Since before I did this show, I have always been curious about what it must be like for his family. And I know that is a weird thing to think about. But this man does so much, like you've already said. But I mean, that is something that I think everyone can pick up on. So at first I was extremely surprised because, again, I was theorizing, is it Tiffany, is it Sasha? Never did I think that it was Kristian or Mark. But once I heard it, once I heard him talk about it a little bit on the show, he started bringing up concerns that I had always been thinking about, like what it must be like, because I know that it probably sucks for him that he has this daughter at home. She's 4, she's young. He loves spending time with her. I mean, he was talking about how he was watching Star Wars with her for the first time during December, and you know, I mean, I know what it's like. I don't have kids of my own, but I know that as a parent, you know, you want to experience your child being a child as much as you can. So there's not...
Can I interject on that point? I don't mean to interrupt you. I know you gave me my time to speak, but I have something that might add to your point that is incredibly relevant.
Okay.
He just mentioned that he watched Arrival for the second time. Do you think that movie hit him in such a way, because there's a lot of stuff in relation to Amy Adams' daughter in that film, do you think that film hit him in such a way to where he wanted to stop missing out on as many moments as he's been missing? Do you think this has anything to do with Arrival and what the message of that film was?
If this was any other episode of the Schmoeville After Show, I would laugh at you and say that that's a ridiculous theory. It very well could. I mean, it might sound stupid to some people, but I've been affected by movies in that same way, and it's absolutely possible.
I want to tip my hat to Aaron Turner. He and I talked about that together. Aaron Turner, friend of the show, mature adult Aaron Turner, Schmoedown Rundown, great guy.
Up.
So
okay, we're talking about Kristian.
I just want to give him a hat tip though, because he kind of introduced that idea.
I forgot where I was going with it. Anyway, so okay, yeah. What I wanted to say was that I don't think, after I heard Kristian explain himself a little bit, I don't see how anyone can blame the guy. I mean, it's sort of overdue. A break for Kristian Harloff is overdue. I hate the fact that it's just like an extended break. I mean, I wish that there was a way to compromise. He come on once or twice a month. Maybe compromise cutting time somewhere else, whether it be like a one movie talk appearance. I know it's not quite.
He should come on with the Finstock mask in like 2 months, and not acknowledge that it's him. Just wear the mask and just be in character the whole time.
That'd be funny.
By the way, some people are complaining. They're like, but he had 3 months off when the show was on hiatus last year. That's a break. He's lying. He took a break because the show was moving to Collider.
Yeah, but he was still working his ass off. Anyway, I don't want to respond to that. Let me finish what I was saying.
Yeah, the past 9 months have been insane.
But I do understand. I mean, having Thursday night off is not the same as having Monday morning off. I assume that his daughter is in daycare or maybe even preschool or something, so it wouldn't make any difference if he took off on Monday morning because she would still be elsewhere. So I get it. But again, I wish that there was some kind of compromise. I know he's probably already thought about this. I know that someone like Ellis probably asked him, why not do one show a month? Look, it sucks, and you have a great point. I love Ken Knapsack. It might next Wednesday might come along, and it could feel like Kristian never left. But what really got me was the fact that Kristian, I just assumed that it would be a couple months, and the fact that Kristian was like, who knows, it could be a year. That's what stings the most. And I know I'm kind of getting sentimental and sappy, but it's kind of like I've spent so much indirect time with this person, and I mean, I talk to him like every day. Like, I know it might sound silly, but his presence will absolutely be missed. I'm not the first person to say it. I'm not the last person to say it, but I will be bummed about this for a while, I think. I'm like you said, I'm hoping that he watches more TV. I think we have the OA to blame for this move. I really do. I think he realized how much.
That's another movie with themes that could be tied back to this, yeah, or another TV show.
He realized how much he had been missing in his life with the OA, and he felt the need to take a step back and rethink this whole film critic thing. Maybe that's what he's doing. He's going through something right now because of the OA.
He's still doing movie reviews. He's still doing everything he normally does. He's just not being on the live show. Do you agree with me, though, that the Schmoedown is where his true passion lies right now? I feel like he sees a golden opportunity here to just push this thing as far as it can go, because that has upside. The Schmoes Know Show, I love it. It's my favorite show on YouTube, but I think we've reached its potential, and it's great. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like the Schmoedown has a higher ceiling, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible. The Schmoedown can be a TV show, and I know. Remember what he said to me a few weeks ago before we went on break. You know, he wants to be that guy on a magazine cover with Ellis, and I'm sure Campy will force his way onto it too. But the quote would be, "How these guys turn movie trivia into a sport." That's what he wants. And I think that's replaced what he wanted from the live show all those years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So do you agree with me in that sense? Do you disagree?
I have learned a lot in the short time that I've known Kristian. He has taught me a lot about stupid things like programming for YouTube. but he's also taught me some stuff, it's personal stuff, things about life lessons, and I can see that his head could be in that space because, and that's another thing that I don't blame him for, because I think that the Schmoedown is riding high. He's just riding the wave, and I think he knows exactly what you just said. That the if anything, the Schmoedown deserves his undivided attention, and I think that's what he's doing. I mean, 2017, the fact that it's a new year, he knows that the live show can function. I mean, like you said, we saw those episodes where he wasn't there. I mean, and the show can function without Ellis too.
One of my favorite shows of last year was when Ken hosted with Stuckman,
Yeah.
Jeremy, and Sasha. One of my favorite episodes, maybe of last year in general.
So he knows that if he takes a step back, the Schmoes Know live show is in great hands, and I think he's doing something very smart. And it gets me even more excited for the Schmoedown because I think 2017 is going to be a huge year. So, and that again, like I said, I can't blame him for that. I really can't, and I think it's a smart move if that's his play. So,
4 live shows equal the same views as one event, one spectacular event. So I think he saw the spectacular numbers and just said, yeah, this is where I have to put the majority of my time in 2017. It just makes sense.
I feel like we've sucked the air out of the room.
Well, it was bound to happen. It's a downer subject. I love when Ellis joked about the fact that he can't wait to turn the show into the Mark Ellis Variety Hour. So it'll be interesting to see what potential changes Ellis might make. I know Kristian will still be producing, but I'm sure Ellis is going to be able to make a bigger dent in ways that he couldn't previously. I mean, I'm sure he'll bring in more of his friends. I don't think he's always gotten the chance to do that. Whenever he hosted the show by himself the last few months, he brought in friends from the stand-up world, Glickman and Caparulo. So I hope to have more guests on the show. They've kind of moved away from guests on the show, and I want to see them get back to that place where we meet someone cool and have a fun time listening to their banter back and forth.
If I recall, I believe Copster mentioned getting back in the groove of having guests on. You mentioned the fact that the show is switching to Wednesday. I find it very interesting that we're going back to that Toad Hop vibe and that Kristian's going to be missing out on it because he's also instrumental in that. You know what I mean?
He wanted the couch more than anyone. He hates that Wanger table.
Right.
He wanted the headphones more than anyone, and yet he's going to get those things, and yet he won't be able to use them until November, December.
Do you think there's a chance
he'll use them on the other shows, but not in this sense?
Sure. Do you think there's a chance that he'll be back in like 4 weeks, but only just for that particular show? Like, do you think he's honestly going to last the entire stretch without an appearance?
Look, there are always exceptions. If John Boyega wants to come on the Schmoes Know Show, yeah, Kristian's going to show up. But for the most part, I think he's not going to be back full-time until the end of the year when it's time to promote Spectacular and talk Episode 8.
Well, until then, I'll just keep going back to his Instagram and crying over the picture of him holding his daughter's hand.
Again, Arrival, the OA. I mean, that stuff has to weigh on you. And Arrival being his favorite film of the year, again, hats up to Aaron Turner. I feel like that was on his mind when this decision was made.
Didn't they mention the film Prisoners on the show? Because they talked about how Wahlberg produced it, right?
Yeah, that was surprising. I did not know Wahlberg produced that, but interestingly enough, Ken and Makuga hosted a Toad Hop era show way back when because Kristian wanted to go to the Prisoners screening.
That's right.
And he ended up not being able to go because I believe, is that when his wife went into labor?
No, there was an emergency.
There was an emergency
with his daughter, but I don't think
with his
it was
daughter.
labor.
Yeah. It wasn't like yeah, you're right. But there was an emergency. He couldn't make the screening, and the whole night was crazy for a variety of reasons. But yeah, I mean, you can't blame the guy. I'm so upset that there are certain people who are like, well, why doesn't he just take off Movie Talk or Jedi Council? And they don't realize
It's not the
Collider.
same.
Collider pays the bills. They have a contract with Collider. They cannot do what they want in regards to Collider. Schmoes is his business. He can decide his own schedule with Schmoes because the work with Collider affords the infrastructure of Collider for Schmoes.
Right, and going back to what I said, it's about freeing up time at night. It's not about
Exactly.
So, but anyway,
But it's not even an option with Collider, though. It's an option with Schmoes because it's his business.
I feel like I developed so. I mean, my mind has been thinking a lot about this. I don't think I've even scratched the surface with my attitude about this, but that's all I have to say about it right now. Really, I mean, just to sum it up again, it sucks ass. It really does. But I get it. I really do, and you can't blame a guy for doing something like this. Something that I know this kind of sounds ridiculous, but a video that I found, I had seen it before. It was John Campia's toast to Kristian at his birthday party a year or two ago.
That was a great toast.
It was. And for those of you, if you have not seen that video, you can just YouTube Kristian Harloff, John Campia. It's a video on John Campia's personal YouTube channel. And in that video, Campia talks about the fact that every decision that Kristian makes all comes down to how it will affect his family. And it was a really touching moment, and it was something that I had forgotten until last night. So check out that toast if you have not seen it yet. But it further solidifies what a great man Kristian is. So
every major decision that he's made, especially the creation of the show, the hiring of us, every major decision that he's made has been the right decision. When you think about the fact hold on, there's a bigger point here. When you think about the fact that Schmoes was doing its thing, they were doing the Toad Hop thing, they were phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. But then one day Kristian said, you know what, I want more for Schmoes. He reached out to John Campia and said, I want to be on AMC Movie Talk. It's in our best interest to combine our audience with your audience. Our channels are about the same size. There's a partnership that can be made here. That was the right decision. Because of that, it's led to Collider. It's led to the Schmoedown. It's allowed the Schmoes to get their own home base. No longer are they sleeping on other people's couches, whether it's Toad Hop or AfterBuzz, Drama 3-4. They now have their own home that they've earned through Collider. So every big decision that Kristian has made over the years, the creation of the Schmoedown, has paid off in spades. So I think this decision is the best thing for the fans. It's the best thing for Kristian. It's the best thing for his family. And if we want Kristian for another 4 years, another 5 years on the live show, and we want him to enjoy it, this time off will allow that to happen. This will give him that spark back, that energy back. So think of it in that sense, that this is going to allow Kristian to come back to the show and love it all over again, like when he just started it, as if he just started it.
Right. I'm glad that you said that, by the way, because we have mentioned several times how, you know, like you said earlier in this episode, Collider does pay the bills. We don't talk enough about how Collider owes a lot to Schmoes Know as well, and I mean it's the truth, and hopefully we don't forget that. But anyway. Kristian, I'm available to host the Schmoes Know show anytime. The problem with that though is if I do come host, I'm gonna need you to be there. And when I take part in the Schmoedown, I can't have you take off that week either. I'm gonna need to see you there, buddy. But yeah, just hit me up. Let me know. You know where I live. You know how to reach me, and we'll set it up. The fans want it, obviously. So
I know it sounds kind of ridiculous in response to what we just discussed, but people, if you hear any mispronunciations throughout the week, send them over my way at BDF331. I want to give you guys a chance to correct some pronunciations that are driving you crazy. So I know that's ridiculous to say after such a serious, depressing subject, but I meant to mention that earlier, and it's worth saying as we wrap up. So again, filmschlubspodcast.com. Our Rogue One and top 10 films of 2016 is about to drop. We're making our return. So that's it for me this week.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at WhatUpSnell. And please come hang out with us on the Sight and Sound podcast and YouTube channel. You can find the links to all of that stuff if you follow me on Twitter. We love to talk to you about music, movies, and television. And I think that's all I got, really. Yeah. I hate that we're ending it on this note. Imagine if Kristian had ended the show with his announcement. It would have been a bummer, just like this podcast.
You know what? It was important that they announced it up top so that he could talk us through it, so everybody could talk us through it. Because if we didn't have that chance to hear everybody chiming in on it, it might be a harder thing to handle if you just said, yeah, I'm leaving, and then the show ended 10 minutes later. So it gave us a chance to kind of have a quick therapy session versus saving the announcement till the end.
Another great business decision by Kristian Harloff. And we do have his epic rant to remember him by. Kristian, if I haven't sucked you off enough in this podcast, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done up until this point, for bringing Brian and I along. I know it's not goodbye. Hopefully you listen to every episode of this show on your hiatus, but I'm sure you will. But anyway,
Yeah.
just thank you to you, Kristian. We all love you in Schmoeville.
Likewise, thank you, Kid Context. I really appreciate what you've done for us here. And I hope that the existing crew doesn't forget about us, because Kristian is kind of the ringleader of the Schmoeville after show banter with the Schmoes Know Show. So I hope the guys that are taking over don't forget about us as much as Copster would like them to forget about us.
Who's going to promote the Schmoes Know after show now?
Exactly. I try to say it in a more eloquent, classy manner, but yeah, I could have just said that.
Also call our show the Schmoes Know after show instead of the Schmoeville after show.
Podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our disorganized sign off. We will see
I know.
you.
Why did I do that?
It's fine. I love it. Hashtag transparency. We will see you next week at the same time. Next Sunday, despite the fact that the live show will be moving to Wednesday. We love you guys. Have a good Martin Luther King Day.